Hello, it's Jack Gill and welcome back to the Mundo Sporto podcast. I am delighted today to be joined by both Lee Chappie and Corey, who is, of course, from the West Ham way. Lads, I'm conscious of timing and obviously we don't have Lee for long, so I'm going to start with all the Leicester stuff. I'm going to start with top four. I'm going to start, though, before I talk about top four, with... Of course, the big win at the weekend, Lee. What a day for Leicester fans. As a neutral, in the situation, I was absolutely delighted for Leicester. I was buzzing for, obviously, Brendan Rodgers as an ex-Liverpool.
Of course.
But Lee, it must have been an incredible feeling. A lot of people say that the Leicester season was a one-off, but we've known from the last few years Leicester aren't going to lie down. They ain't going anywhere. They're looking to break into the top six, and the FA Cup is yet another fantastic step for Leicester in the right direction.
Foxes never quit is our slogan, and I think that speaks volumes. We are this big project under King Power ownership, and we're here to stay. I think we're slowly but surely establishing ourselves as this top six / if you want to say it, big six side. I can think of 4,832 reasons why. That's days of how many days since Spurs I've won a trophy, and they're considered a big six side. And Leicester have won 2 of the biggest English domestic titles in the last 5 years. I'm not being arrogant. I'm just telling you facts. Numbers speak. But anyway, we did it. The FA Cup. I can't believe it. We finally did it. After 4 finals of losing it, and the 5th final finally getting our hands on it. 1884 club was established. Last final was 1969. My dad was there. My dad went to the whole FA Cup journey in 1969. Every round, including the replays and the heartbreak of losing against Manchester City in 1969. For him to be alive to see us win the Premier League and then the FA Cup, it's just magic. The magic of the cup's not gone. Trust me. I'm still wearing the same shirt I was wearing Saturday. It absolutely stinks, and I'm going to wear it for a few more days yet. There's a few more days out of this, boys.
Well, Lee did say to me before doing this pod that obviously he's not watched any football over the weekend because he's been watching the FA Cup final over and over again. So
I've watched the full game, the full 9 minutes 3 times, and I've watched the highlights as well. But I don't know, about 10 times. I swear, I'm not joking. It's mad. I can't get over
Corey,
it.
A fantastic day for all Leicester fans, and as I mentioned,
and football, fantastic. Football.
I was literally about to say the same thing. Did feel like that a little bit.
It is because I constantly praise Leicester. They're a club that it's impossible not to have a soft spot for. Whoever you are, you will have a soft spot for Leicester City because they're a perfectly run football club from top to bottom, and the way they've done it, the way they've got to success is the right way. And with everything we've gone through this season, the Super League and all that kind of stuff, Leicester are leading the way with showing football how it's meant to be played.
Yeah, something that was forgotten actually as well, a part of this season. Do you remember this one? 19 teams voted in favour of pay-per-view style football. One club voted against it. Do you know which one that was?
It was Leicester, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it weren't West Brom, was it?
Leicester. It was Leicester. Out of all the 20 teams, Leicester said no. It's a stupid idea. You're robbing fans.
Well, they're a prime example, aren't they, of how to run a club and still be successful. And they've got that balance. It's a shame as a West Ham fan looking enviously at Leicester how they've managed to do it. And I'll tell you what as well, Lee. I think the way that when you did win the Premier League, it wasn't a case of this is just a one-off. There is a project there and you consolidated it. And even when you've dipped and you've not been top 4, there's always been an impression from outside fans that you will go again. And the fact I was buzzing for you to get that FA Cup because there was something about it that felt a little bit like you've got Chelsea, with all due respect, a lot of money's been pumped in, and then you've got this Leicester project. And you could see from the players how much it meant to them, the fans, the owner. It's an incredibly unique situation, and I'm buzzing for you.
That game, just quickly looking back at that game, I'm sure it was fate. I'm sure it was. Vichai was there in spirit. His favourite number was number 8. Who scored? Tielemans. What number's his shirt? Number 8. Right? Even freakier. He would have been 63 this year, Vichai. What minute was the goal scored in?
Yeah, that is free.
63rd minute.
It did feel like that whole game though, because even the goal itself is an FA Cup winning goal, isn't it? Like you just look at it, it's fantastic. Peter Schmeichel with 2 worldies, you know the way. And when Peter Schmeichel, Kasper Schmeichel,
everyone does that. Everyone does that. Everyone does that, Cora. Everyone
does. It's a cardinal sin. No, but when he saved from Mason Mount, I thought there's no way. And obviously the VAR decision and Chilwell getting his goal ruled off as being involved in it. It was very much like it was Leicester's day.
I mean, imagine a former product of our own academy almost ruining our FA Cup chances, and VAR comes in and says, "No, not today, mate." It was just written. The whole thing was just from top to bottom written. It was mad.
I was going to say, obviously, I don't want to talk about that Chilwell thing because my reaction as soon as the ball in the net, the back of the net, in the circumstances it was typical. Because, Leicester, I thought were brilliant. And, you heard the fans booing Chilwell, giving him a bit of a difficult time. And just the way the ball ended up in the back of the net, it just seemed typical of football and the way it's been the last few years. But, as you said, I think the gods were looking down on Leicester City that day, and it did seem like an element of fate. And VAR gets a lot of criticism, but it made a perfect decision because, in years gone by, that goal would have stood and Leicester City could have been robbed of an FA Cup. It's
correct, mate. It is correct, but luckily we're in well, I don't want to say luckily, that's a term I wouldn't use for VAR because we've all been victims of it. But it's today's rules and you have to play with today's rules, the modern law of the game. And this time it worked in our favour.
Absolutely. And while we've still got you, Lee, because I know you need to shoot off at 4:30, I also want to bring in, the race for top 4, and that's going to be mainly what we talk about on this podcast today. We spoke briefly before we came on air, and you actually said that the top 4 now doesn't have as much meaning because the FA Cup was the big one this season, and actually top 4 would just be icing on the cake. I think Corey was on this podcast a couple of weeks ago when I spoke about Leicester City, and I said that I think they'll win the FA Cup and miss out on top 4. But I think the feeling across many Leicester fans, Lee, is that actually you've won the FA Cup. As much as you want top 4. Let's just focus on the here and now. You've already had one massive achievement this season, and missing out on top 4 wouldn't exactly be the greatest of losses for you.
Exactly. In 3 years' time, Jack, you can't say, well, in 2021 we won top 4. You can't say that. It's not silverware. It's not a trophy to show off. You can say we won the FA Cup, and that's the end of the argument. That is it. There's no argument to make. Okay, Champions League football is very nice. It's nice to have it's lucrative for the club money-wise. But is it true success? I'm not so sure.
And Corey, I don't know if you've seen Thomas Tuchel's quotes in the last couple of days. I think he is playing games a bit, and it's the first time I've seen him do that since joining Chelsea, to be honest with you. But what he has said is that for him, the main target is Champions League football next season and top 4, and not it wasn't winning the FA Cup. But you see the different side of it from Leicester. I think it sums up where football is going actually at the moment, because for a club like Leicester, winning the FA Cup is an absolute huge thing. But clearly, a lot of the top 6 clubs don't seem to be bothered anymore.
I think that's because we won it, though, aren't they?
Yeah, I was literally about to say that's the problem. It's become a bit of a novelty, and you see that on Saturday. I know Tuchel would have been those players would have been slightly disappointed, but there's more emphasis on them going to win the Champions League and get top 4 than win the FA Cup, and that is the difference. And it is a shame that we are now in a time with the Premier League where top 4 is everything. If you ask Tottenham, would they rather get an FA Cup or top 4? I'm sure they'd start saying the FA Cup because they haven't won a major trophy since '91. Yeah. So they need it, but at the same time, I think when you win the FA Cup a certain amount of times and you are in the top 4, how lucrative it is does mean that in order for you to sustain the challenge on all fronts, you need to get into it. So it's a shame that it's gone that way. But asking me as a West Ham fan, I'd rather finish 17th and get it.
There's a simple fix, Corey. You know what the simple fix is to get that right?
Champions League I know. For the FA Cup. I agree.
top 3, and then winners of
It
the
would
FA
be.
Cup.
Can you imagine how unreal
Straight in.
that would be in terms of competition? Every single club would go for it, would throw everything at it. It'd be perfect.
Exactly. You could get like random, like Wigan won it in 2012, 2013. Then straight into the Champions League next season. Why not? Even though they're playing in, say, Championship football. Who cares? It should be on merit. It should be on merit. So yeah, definitely. I agree. I think that should be your thing.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and open it up to the comments because you get divisive opinions on that. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't like that as well because you'd see the bigger clubs go for the FA Cup then probably more so. And one thing I do like about the domestic cup competitions now is that there is more opportunity for teams like Leicester, West Ham to come through and go on to win it because the big clubs aren't taking it as seriously. But I think, as you say, it would add an extra incentive and it would be nice. I'm sure you would see, a lot of clubs going for the FA Cup more if that was the case. But yeah, big game tonight, Lee, between Leicester and Chelsea. Huge game. For me as a Liverpool fan, and we'll talk about this more in a bit. It's been a really topsy-turvy season. You can't guarantee whoever wins tonight will definitely finish in the top 4. How do you see the game going, Lee?
It's going to be they're going to be fired up. I think Chelsea after that. There's going to be revenge is sweet almost for them. I think I can see Ben Chilwell starting. I think he should have started, to be fair, against Leicester in the FA Cup. That was a fixture written all over for him to play in. I don't know why he was subbed on in the last 10. I have no idea. But I think tonight, I'm not worried because I already told you it's icing on the cake for us now, top 4. But in terms of Chelsea, I can see them really going for it tonight. Really, really going for it. Yeah.
It's interesting though because you're quite right. We can see Chelsea wanting revenge and going for it. Tuchel has said Champions League's the target for them, but you can also see Leicester being buoyed from the win at the weekend.
Yeah.
We heard in the celebrations, I think it was Vardy that mentioned that actually they were training the day after the FA Cup final. Yeah. So you could see a Leicester side that is boosted from a terrific weekend and want to go out there and beat Chelsea this evening for the second time in a week.
You know what? It's almost next to winning the Premier League title of having a top 4 finish, getting Champions League football the following season, and the FA Cup win. They're both up there in terms of like achievement for us as a club. We accidentally won the Premier League. It was mental. The idea was to get 40 points and stay up, not to bloody win the thing. And the difference between winning the Premier League and winning the FA Cup was that we won the FA Cup ourselves. It was by our own doing. At Wembley with fans as well in attendance. As the Premier League, we'd win it over a period of time, and in the end, it was won with a game between Chelsea and Tottenham. So the FA Cup just meant so much more. That's probably another debate for Leicester fans as a whole, which one was most important and better feeling. But I think it's a very successful season for Leicester to get top 4 and win the FA Cup. So maybe they will go all out tonight. Like you said, they were in training today. So maybe.
I think that's an overwhelming feeling of the format of certain competitions, Lee, because I know as a Liverpool fan, again, I've argued this for years about, the Champions League, winning the Champions League being a better feeling than winning the league because of it. And the fact that you do have a final, you do have one game where if you win a trophy. It's as simple as that. Whereas the league is over a 38 game period, of course. But I think both are massive achievements for Leicester City. The big difference for me is obviously the fact that when you won the league, like you said, a lot of people go, well, it was an accident. You'll never see anything like this again, blah, blah, blah. But consistently, after you win in the league, Leicester have been up there. You've been around. The season after winning the league, it wasn't the greatest, but that was always going to be the case. You had to rebuild, and what you have done is rebuild the right way. You haven't thrown loads and loads of cash here and there. You've thrown money where it's been earned. You look at the Maguire deal where you got £80 million for Harry Maguire. You've gone out there and signed, Soyuncu before Maguire left, who has been a really good signing for you.
Reinvestment.
The club. I think is outstanding.
The development as well. You've got to think like the FA Cup final. We had our left wing back was 19 years old from Syston in Leicester. It's a developmental academy prospect that's come through, Luke Thomas. You know, it wasn't 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, 50, 60, 70 million pound player. It was free. It was one of our own. And that's insane. And that story will keep going with Leicester because they've just invested that. You know, they've invested that Harry Maguire money into a training facility, one of the best in the country. So it's just a project that it seems to just grow and grow and grow. I don't know where we can go as a club, but I can only see one way, and that's up.
But that's how it keeps looking with Leicester. You know, you have a hit where you lose a player or something happens, and then you rebuild in the perfect way and you react in the perfect way. And you know, we've been asked this question loads over the past few weeks about what is the perfect way to run a football club. And Corey, I think every fan of every football club in world football will respond to you with Leicester City, the King Power Group.
Yeah, it's definitely not West Ham. It's I think it was up there for a while, wasn't it? I suppose Wolves were the next team that kind of looked like a well-run club. But I think, like I said earlier, where Leicester have gone right is spending in the right areas, they've invested in the community as well. There's that bond between fans and club, and there's so much synergy with it. It's not only a joy for them to watch their football club because they know it's being run properly, but they're actually getting success from it. And the recruitment is second to none. Fofana is an absolute player. Tielemans as well is improving every time I see him, particularly this season as well, because I think people level at Tielemans that maybe he's not the quickest. He's so technically sound. You see that from the goal. And they'll just keep going. They've brought Samara in, isn't it, for next summer? A defensive midfielder.
Not a done deal yet, but according to reports, and obviously Fofana tweeted it as well and had to delete it. So I'm pretty much, it's a cert, yeah.
But that's what I mean. It's like any other club wouldn't say, well, we'll go and get him. We've got Ndidi, we've got Tielemans. Leicester are like, no, we keep moving, we keep building, we get a proper squad. And that's why they'll keep doing well. Fingers crossed, they keep going.
That's another thing as well. You know, obviously you won the league. You lost a lot of your focal point to winning the league. You lost a lot of key players that after that season. This year, you've got players that aren't going to want to go anywhere. You know, there's talk of exactly. And, you know, there's the talk of there was talk of Brendan Rodgers potentially going to Spurs. Why would he? Why would he? It's an annoying thing in the world because. Why would you want to leave Leicester at the minute as a player, as a manager? Like you said, Lee, you know, the only way Leicester City are going is up. And if you do miss out on 4 this season, so what? You know, I have every faith that whilst all the top 6 will throw money at certain players in the summer and they'll strengthen, Leicester City will go out and be clever and strengthen in different ways. As Corey mentioned there, you know, Samari will be an excellent signing for Leicester. And what Leicester do is they constantly build again in the correct ways. And Tielemans, Fofana, they are absolutely outstanding players. And both of them are so young as well still.
It's insane. I think we were just touching on the players that we've sold and brought in. It's mad. You know, the 2014-15 season when we came in, Esteban Cambiasso, you know, legend Esteban Cambiasso came in. And he only was there for a season. He left. We brought in this kid called N'Golo Kante. Who? He's a World Cup winner, boys. He's a World Cup winner. He could be a Champions League winner as well at this rate. Who knows? You never know. Well,
that brings me on to my next point. And Corey, I know you'll love to respond to this one. We're living in a world now where we could go from talking a couple of weeks ago about Chelsea and how good they're looking under Thomas Tuchel to in a few weeks' time talking about a club that's lost an FA Cup final, potentially missed out on the top 4, and potentially lost the Champions League final.
Yeah.
I mean, it's lovely. There's no surprise. Listen, Chelsea and Tottenham aren't my preferred clubs in terms of that rivalry with West Ham, but I think they're having a little bit of a wobble. And I think that's the thing with Chelsea, with the way that, and don't get me wrong, they're incredibly tactical. They're really astute. You see that in some of the Champions League semi-final legs against Real Madrid, but they can only score 1 goal in some of these bigger games. And if another side turns up, then there's no answer in it. When you watch them against Leicester, it didn't feel like there was any type of solution regarding how they're playing, how they're approaching. It's all really similar. And I think that's where Tuchel's got to figure something out. Yes, of course, he's going to go in the summer and get a number 9. I doubt it's going to be Harry Kane. But they need someone like that, just a different type of player that is going to get a goal, because Chelsea may struggle. And now you look at the top 4 race, it's become so tight that they can't afford to slip up. And Leicester could be on a bounce. They might turn up tonight and say, do you know what, we fancy this. And if they get an early goal or 2 goals, I can't see Chelsea trying to rectify that.
Yeah.
It's shit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mad.
It's really weird with the whole Chelsea situation, because at the start of the season and under Frank Lampard, it was very much, the amount of attacking options they have is ridiculous. And it looked like a club that was going to outscore you. That's what they look like. Whereas now it's the opposite. Where can they find a goal?
And a ridiculous amount of money that they spent too. Don't forget about that. I mean, gosh, how much money did they spend? It was atrocious. Over 100 million, wasn't it? Way over 100, wasn't it? Was it 200 and something?
200.
I mean, that's
6, I believe.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And that's what's ruining football, almost, to me anyway. I'm not used to seeing those numbers, for my club. I think that ruins football. Everything about the game, money. Leicester proved that you don't need to spend that much money on some player that's apparently proven it in Spain or proven it in Italy, comes over to England and doesn't do so well. And then you feel like you've been conned out of £90 million. You don't need to do that. You can invest in these young talents that look like they could be good. You try, you go for it, gamble. Leicester do, and they seem to always pick up a gem. It's the Leicester way.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing, and for Chelsea to be in that situation when it looks so good for them. If they obviously lose 2 finals and miss out on top 4 after spending the money in the summer, it'll be interesting to see. I've seen some jokes potentially about Tuchel maybe getting sacked if that was the case. I don't think it would be like that at all. Of course, he's going to be given a lot of money himself this summer. But yeah, it's from the Leicester thing, Lee. Let's give you, before you have to shoot off, what's your score prediction for tonight?
I don't like saying, I never like predicting Leicester to lose, but I have a feeling Chelsea are going to really want to get this win, and can only kind of see it going one way at Stamford Bridge. So I'm going to go Leicester to win. You didn't see that coming. I'm going to see Leicester to win. I'm going to go Leicester to turn them over again. I think they've got them in the head. Mentally turn them over. Yeah, go for it. Leicester secure top 4 tonight.
What's the score? What did you say? Sorry, I think the connection broke a bit.
Yeah, I'm going to go Leicester to win 1-0 again.
1-0. There you go. Corey, you're for tonight?
I'm going to go 2-1, to be honest. I think they're going to get some goals, Leicester, to be honest. So, 2-1 then. Hopefully they beat Chelsea and they make them sweat on the final day. That'd be great.
I'll be doing the watch along. I'll be doing the watch along tonight, as usual, because I kind of do what Craig does on Anfield Agenda. So I'll be doing that tonight. So anyone that wants to have a bit of fun, hop over and see what I get up to.
Yeah, nice. Craig will be doing a watch along on Mundo Sporto as well.
There we go. Course, I'm ready. Look, there it is.
Yeah, make sure you all flip the 2 and support Lee's channel. Of course, into Craig. Live on Mundo Sporto. But yeah, Lee, I know you need to shoot, so if you need to get off now, mate, that's all right. Thanks. No worries, mate. I'm going to go to you now, Corey. West Ham, we've been talking for the last couple of months, really. You've been a regular on this show as we spoke about your chances for the top 4. See you, mate. Last couple of weeks, you've not had the greatest of results. The one particularly at the weekend was a big hit for you. Where do you see us finishing now?
Yeah, it's gutting, to be honest. The wheels have kind of come off the West Ham top 4 brigade, and there was a little bit of inevitability about it because of the injuries. The Brighton game's a real shame in terms of timing. I don't think we've beaten Brighton in the Premier League, and they're always a difficult side for us to play. And the 1-1 was gutting. I think the Everton result against Sheffield United does mean that we can get the Europa Conference, which I know a lot of the big teams will sniff at. For us, it's still European football. It's not Europa League. But we're relying on other results, which I hate. It means that Tottenham have really got to go and slip up at some point, and West Ham have got to go and win the next 2. And I hope that, listen, Declan Rice come back in the last game. He's important. He needs his match fitness. And we've got a relatively fully fit squad. So I'm hoping we turn up. But it's West Brom, and West Ham are struggling against these low block sides. We can't break them down. It's something that we're not used to. Every team that we've beaten this season, it always feels like transitions and counters. And I'm hoping for the best. I'd love to get in Europa League. I really, really, really would. It be really successful, even dropping out of the top 4. But I think we'll get at least 7th, which is a good season given where I thought we'd be.
That was the issue against Everton, wasn't it? You know, they got the goal, which I think was sloppy defending from West Ham. And, you know, then you found it really difficult to break them down in the second half. You had a lot of the ball, but like you summed up perfectly there, that's been the issue for West Ham in the last couple of weeks. But, you know, I do think you'll still get European football. You have a nice 2 games left. Well, you call it nice, but as you say, it's potentially 2 games that you may struggle in as well in terms of the tactics. And, you know, I know you question there potentially not finishing 6th because of Spurs, but Spurs have Leicester on their last game of the season. So, you know, you're well within your right to get in that top 6.
Well, I know we were joking about it, but you kind of need Chelsea to get a result tonight to make Leicester be up for that game, if we're perfectly honest. Because I think, listen, West Ham on paper should have really won these last 3, should have beaten Brighton, and we would have been fine, and Europa League would have been confirmed. But we are going to need Spurs to slip up. Now, I'm not sure they'll do it against Villa, just because I think Villa, Grealish is coming back. He hasn't played a lot of games. Leicester would be the one for me. So I'm kind of hoping a lot rides on it. We didn't even know what we were going to get against Brighton, to be honest. They're safe, and we didn't know how they were going to play, and they still half turned up, and we still couldn't do it. It's just, to be honest, mate, I just think we've had a long old season. We've got a really thin squad, and we've run out of ideas. That's how it looks when we play. Like it looks like we're trying, and that's been the greatest thing this season in terms of our side, our 11 hasn't given up. I've watched West Ham my whole life, and we've had seasons where they can't even be bothered to turn up. We are turning up, but we just don't have the formula. And if we address it in the summer, in terms of coaching, in terms of management, in terms of personnel, then we'll kick on next season. But I'd be gutted if we dropped out of 7th, to be honest. If we finished 8th, I'll be distraught. I would feel distraught after the season we've had.
Well, fans back in the London Stadium as well, obviously, Corey, before the last game of the season. And I'm sure it's going to be huge for West Ham because, as you say, you've performed brilliantly this season. There's going to be a brilliant reception for the players and for David Moyes. Don't forget the last time the fans were able to go in London Stadium, it was completely the opposite.
Well, ironically, the last time we were in the stadium, we played Southampton, or properly before COVID, and we beat them 3-1. And we've obviously got them on the last day of the season. And I think having 10,000 fans, given the way that the team has performed this year, they will back them. I think there is a bit of a misconception. I do get it from an outside point of view where people say that West Ham have done well without the fans. It's trying to strike a balance between protesting against the board and backing the team. And I feel like as West Ham fans, we've done a pretty decent job post-Burnley of being very much back the players, but not the regime and not the board. So, I mean, I think it will affect them positively. And I think as well, like you look at some of the players that have played for West Ham this season, particularly Soufal and Souček. Those are players that West Ham fans love. They get involved, they're gritty, they give it their all for 90 minutes. And I just think that boost on the final day of the season, if there are still things riding on it, should get us over the line. Southampton have got nothing to play for, and we've got everything. So, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Well, before Southampton, it's West Brom, and obviously West Brom go into the game against your lot in difficult circumstances after what happened to them at the weekend. Obviously, Alisson scoring a 96th minute winner. I thought West Brom were very unlucky.
Couldn't write it. Typical Liverpool, innit? I was just like, as if. Of course it would be Alisson. Great header. I'm not taking away from it. But
we'll talk about Liverpool in a moment. But, you know, for West Ham, you mentioned the low block things. Allardyce, the master of the low block. I have a feeling it's going to be a frustrating game for West Ham tomorrow night.
I think they are a low block side, but what's impressed me in certain games with Big Sam is the press from the front. You see against Liverpool, I think he looked at Reece Williams and Nat Phillips and just Pereira. And Pereira is the key here. Let's be honest. You know, he's a talented player. If we don't get Lingard, I would love us to go for him for 20 mil. I think that'd be a class signing. I think he can be adventurous at certain points. It's not really him that I'm worried about in terms of how they can affect West Ham. I think we've got enough to deal with them. It's going the other way. The only thing I can think of is they'll give up a little bit of width, which means that we'll have to get Soufal and Creswell further forward and get balls into the box. But like against Everton, if you set up for it, and West Brom have got a lot of height in terms of that centre-back, have we got enough to just keep throwing balls into the box and hoping for something? And we, against Burnley, was the perfect example of West Ham trying to evolve as a side when we had Manu Lanzini, Benrahma, all the players interchanging positions and getting on the ball and hurting them. As good as Declan Rice and Souček are, they're not brilliant technical play, or they're not at least a player that can go play in that final third and pick a pass. So it is a massive test. It's good to see Benrahma get a goal, because if you're going to look to anyone to come up with a moment of magic, it'd be him and Lingard. So everything crossed, but I guarantee it'll be a tight game, and I guarantee it will come down to one goal.
And let us know what you lot think in the comments regarding West Ham. Where do you think they will finish up this season? And maybe I can read out a few to Corey at the end and see what he but yeah, moving on. I said we'd talk about Liverpool. This will be my favourite part of the show today. We'll talk about Liverpool then, Corey. It's been a really good few weeks for us after a difficult season, lots of injuries. Obviously, the draw against Leeds, but I constantly say, with the Leeds draw, how could we expect to get anything bigger than a draw that day after what was going on with the Super League and everything surrounding that game? Our owners really fucked us going into that game. Then there was Newcastle. You could see a goal coming a mile off for Newcastle and it came. We dropped points there. But, winning the last few on the bounce, the win at Old Trafford was huge for us. I thought we were tremendous that day. Yeah. And then at the weekend, when things looks like it was the game that sums up our season, with the fact that, we were knocking at the door. Thiago was outstanding. He was really pulling the strings for us. But it just seemed like we were missing chance after chance after chance. But as you say, Corey, it was typical Liverpool in a way. And it was, not giving up. We have a chance late on. Alisson comes forwards. West Brom, for some reason, didn't pick him up. And then we don't lie down. We'll come back and we'll go again. And now we find it top four in our hands. We've got some people will look at the last two games for Liverpool and go, Burnley and Crystal Palace, they're two very winnable games. We're bound to do it. But in a Liverpool way, I'd rather us play teams like Aston Villa and Leicester in the last two games than, sides like Roy Hodgson's Crystal Palace and Sean Dyche's Burnley, who are bound to set up to try and frustrate us over 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's gutting that Liverpool seem to have found their rhythm just at the last minute, for me anyway. I know not for you, I know you're buzzing, but I think there's an element of tempo there, definitely in the passing. Thiago is looking, I think he's just sort of adapted to the rhythm of the league. It completely different in terms of how he was playing over in Germany and possibly playing a little bit deeper. And now, obviously, you've got Fabinho in there and you've got a man behind him, and everything just seems to be ticking. I thought you were outstanding against Man United, 100%, I agree. And against West Brom, you just kept plugging away and you got something. It's never easy. I think Liverpool do get over the line. I know you're still, like us, relying on results ahead of you, but I think you've got more than enough. And it's been a strange old season. You're missing Jota, who I thought was really decent against Manchester United again, and he's probably been the most disappointing. If I was a Liverpool fan, that'd be the most disappointing thing for me. I know you've had major injuries, but Jota, every time he's played for you, has looked lively and keep picking up these little niggles and little nicks. And if you kept him fit for the season, particularly with the season that Mane's having, where it seems to be massively off the boil, I think you'd be all right. But it's so Liverpool. It's so Liverpool to get top four after the season you've had. And the problem is, like, looking as an outsider into it, it's an anomaly of a season. Next season Liverpool will go again in the transfer market. You'll go and get a top quality centre back in there just to solidify things, possibly even an attacking player. So you will kick on. But I can see you getting top four, because I just look at Chelsea and I'm not convinced. I think something may happen, to be honest. And they might have one eye on that Champions League final. So yeah, well done. You have been calling it for ages, so I'll give you a credit.
Yeah, well, it's been difficult, like you said. It's I can't say that word, an anomaly of a season. There you go. But it's one of them where we have struggled so much this season with injuries. We had no momentum in 2021. We've been abysmal. We had that record of losses in a row at Anfield, which was atrocious. The teams we dropped points to, and for us as fans, we'd given up on this season. Before that game at Old Trafford, we thought it was going to be Man United that ended our top four hopes. And it was, look, let's try and do what we can in the summer and go again next year and try and miss out on European football altogether if we can. But, now we're back in with a chance. We've got top four, as I say. I, like most of the Liverpool fans, am absolutely cacking myself that Sean Dyche, Roy Hodgson on his last game for Palace could ruin our top four. hopes. But we're in with a chance now, and that's all we can ask for. And for us as Liverpool fans, to finish top four in the circumstances that we've had this season would be a fantastic achievement. And we look into next season, we look at what we can do this summer in what I believe is a huge window for this football club. We need to sort out our attacking options. That's been clear. You're quite right about Diogo Jota. And that's what worries me ahead of this last couple of games, because we saw against West Brom, our bench was awful. And, we bought Shaqiri on nice and early. Klopp rarely does an early sub. Bring Shaqiri on. He was absolutely shite. So, I think it's obvious where we need to improve in the summer. And top four gives us an even better chance of doing it the right way and pushing on for the title again next season.
Yeah, the only thing I'm a bit perplexed with, and I've been a bit critical of Trent Alexander-Arnold defensively. I think he's improved massively. It does concern me going into Euros that you're hearing that Southgate isn't going to take it. That, for me, is criminal. And I'm not just saying that just because you're a Liverpool fan, but I look at it and think, every time I've watched him play for Liverpool, and I know he had a dodgy game against Real Madrid, he has switched on. There is something about him which tells me that he really wants to get back into that England squad. And for me, I don't know about you, but you take it, wouldn't you? It's a 26-man squad. How can he not get in?
For me, it completely perplexes me, Corey. I'm a huge fan of Trent Alexander-Arnold, and a lot of my mates are not Liverpool fans and are not Trent Alexander-Arnold fans. And like you said there, a lot of people that aren't Liverpool fans criticise him defensively, and don't get me wrong, he's not perfect defensively. It is one of the weaker sides of his game, but the guy's 22. You only have to look at how much he's won, the stuff he has done. You say he just seems to turn it on when it matters most. And for me, there's the big debate to be had, but I think he has improved defensively. You have to remember that this season it has been tough for him, but he's not had Trent in it. He's not had Henderson in front of him in the role where he covers Trent a lot. He's not had Joe Gomez and Virgil van Dijk alongside him. He's had to adapt, and it's taken him time himself. But for me, as I say, I put it down to Southgate simply not knowing how to use him. And I think a lot of people instantly see Trent and go, "Oh well, he's great going forwards," but there's a question mark over him defensively. Why not change his role or do this? No, Southgate can build the England team around Trent Alexander-Arnold, because if he does that, Trent is one of the greatest, creative wise in world football, particularly from defence. I know Jamie Carragher does people's head in calling him De Bruyne at right back, but he kind of is. And you look at it, and for me, Trent is outstanding, and he brings something completely different that nobody else can do in world football. And with the attacking threats that you have in the side, with the fact that you've got Harry Kane and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who are both very, very good in the air. You have good wingers as well. You could quite very simply build the team around Trent, especially when we've seen Southgate as well at the World Cup really like that back three and go with that. So yeah, it's something that I don't understand. But as I say, I put it down to Southgate being not the greatest of coaches and not knowing how to use a player of that caliber. And he's not a traditional right back. He's very much a new breed of fullback. And as I say, there's no one else like Trent. And it takes a special coach to coach a special player, and that's what I believe this is. And yeah, it is an interesting subject of conversation, and I'm sure Southgate will be under pressure if he does leave Trent out of the Euros, and if things don't go right for England in the Euros. But like you say as well, the 26-man squad, there is no reason why you don't have Trent in there. Because for me, it's Walker, Trent, and then it's either Reece James and Wan-Bissaka for me.
Yeah, well, the fact that Wan-Bissaka doesn't even get a shout is ludicrous. I rate most of the right backs, if I'm honest. I don't mind Kyle Walker. I can get why he's in there. You can play him right hand side of a back three, and possibly I think you're seeing Reece James might even be put in there, which I think is a little bit naive going into a tournament, given he's not played there for Chelsea or even for England. But I think on the Southgate thing, again, England have got. It's like sort of getting a puzzle and just chucking all the pieces together, and I feel like he doesn't understand that. We've got a great pool of talent, but he doesn't know how to use them. And I think that's the thing. It's not linear. You don't say, okay, we'll have a conventional back four and this is what it is. You try and figure out how you can get the best out of it. Like how you would put Jack Grealish on the left and you would say to him, you can have the ball and you can pick it up deep. Whereas Southgate looks at it and says, I'd rather have a Mason Mount, who I think has been brilliant, but because he's much more of a functional player and he works hard. And that will be the frustrating thing in this tournament. If we see that naivety and the fact that we've got such a great pool of talent to use, and he underuses them. And that's where England have gone wrong. There's no progressive coach. There's no coach that can get the best out of these players. But I know I'm downplaying it because it's going into Euros and I'm probably preempting it's going to be a negative one. But it just annoyed me on the Trent point because I have been critical and I have watched him and he has improved. And so if I can see that he's improved defensively and he's switched on and going forward, we obviously know his quality. Why can't Southgate see that? He's got his favourites and he picks them. I mean, I'm not complaining because Declan gets in, but at the same time, you take Trent. He's one of the best right backs in world football in his day.
And it would be annoying as well because it felt like a bit of a statement, him being left out the last England squad. And, Southgate said it was because of performances. He can't use that excuse now. Reece James has been in and out of that Chelsea side since their two shadows like to, rotate. Trent has completely upped his game. He's been performing at the top of his game again. He's been a key part of our success. And if we do finish top four, a lot of it will be down to Trent's performances in the last few weeks. And for me, he can't not take him. He just can't. But we're going to park the European Championships conversation now because I'm sure we'll do a lot of that in the next few weeks. And we'll focus on the last couple of things. I want to talk about Roy Hodgson leaving Crystal Palace. And of course, there's a big conversation to be had about Harry Kane before we finish, Corey. But quickly on Roy Hodgson, I'm not the biggest fan of Hodgson, of course, from his time at Liverpool. But, he's a man that I know Klopp has spoken highly of today. And a lot of people involved in football will speak highly of Roy Hodgson. He's gone obviously on into his 70s in management, and his Palace side have been consistent over the last couple of years. They've done really well. They've avoided relegation. They've been a mid-table side. He's done up there, hasn't he? And you have to praise him for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think you won't like it. I think he's underrated because people say he's a boring, pragmatic manager. I think he is a good coach. I think he gets the best out of the players that he's got. I don't think there's a reason why he's not managed a top club. I know he was at Inter Milan for a spell, but in terms of consistently, and he's not at that level. But in terms of what he's done for Crystal Palace, and I'm not sure how their fans feel about them, they probably feel that it's the right time because they do want to see attractive football. And I do sympathise with that a little bit. We did have Big Sam for a while, so I know how it feels. But he has stabilised that club in the Premier League for its longest spell in a long time. And I think that is important for Palace and he should be given a lot of credit for that. And the void that he'll leave. And I find it a really interesting situation because normally at a club you have players there previously, under that regime, and a new manager comes in and he inherits them. Now, if Frank Lampard comes into there's 10 or 11 players that are leaving and they're out of contract. So I'm really interested to see how it goes. It could work really well for Fat Frank if he does come in and he has players that he likes and he trusts. Maybe he gets Tammy Abraham. We don't know. Possibly they may go for him and that they hit the ground running, or they completely flop and they're in a relegation battle. It's such a unique situation. But in terms of Roy, I think right time to go for the club, and I guess Palace fans are hoping that whoever comes in, if it is Frank Lampard, that he does a little bit better. Let's see what Frank Lampard's like without a budget. That'll be the interesting thing for me.
It is, isn't it? Because, we talk about Frank Lampard and to be honest, I really expect Frank to be given the Palace job. It's been spoken about in the papers a lot over the last few weeks. I can't see anything other than that, especially now it's been confirmed with Hodgson. And of course, Frank Lampard was tipped for the England under 23 job, but that's gone quiet. So I think, all is agreed really. But so I've heard anyway between Palace and Lampard. And, Lampard's an interesting one, Corey, because, we know from what he did with Chelsea, the foundations were there for what Tuchel's done now, but he never quite got it right for Chelsea. He underperformed there at Derby. A lot of people give him credit for backing the youngsters, which he did in his first season at Chelsea. But as soon as he got given a few $100 million, he parked that idea and started spending a shit ton of money and go a different route. And let's not forget, he didn't do what Derby needed to do and get promoted. That's with the players he had at Derby. He should have done that, shouldn't he?
He should have done it. I think. with the Lampard thing in terms of bringing in a lot of players, I think he was under pressure to do that. I think it was a little bit of a PR stunt anyway. They're under a transfer embargo. They're probably highly unlikely, or they couldn't bring anyone in, so they had to do that. And again, I think he rode the coattails of that, and then he brought the players. And the problem with Lampard is he's inexperienced. He's making mistakes at a level where there's so much high scrutiny. And I've said to you before, I think the way that Gerrard's done it in terms of in different leagues and through the youth system and bide his time and do it intelligently is the way that you can protect that reputation. We're seeing it a little bit with Mikel Arteta, where he's been thrown into a club like Arsenal and he can't deal with it. And I think that's the same with Frank. I think Frank probably, from what I saw of Chelsea, there was naivety in terms of the way they were playing, but I could get what he was trying to do, be expansive, high press. I understand that. But you've got to pay your dues. You need 4 or 5 years. And yeah, okay, relatively speaking, he did fail at Derby with the money that he had. But I actually, as much as I don't like Frank Lampard, think he can be a decent manager. But there is a ridiculous media narrative around him that he's incredibly successful. He did a good job with a decent Chelsea side, and then he flopped when he got £200 million. And for me, like you can't navigate away from that.
And there's one thing you can guarantee about Frank Lampard: at least he won't play 3 DMs like Roy Hodgson does. So Palace fans will be
all right.
But yeah, I'm just having a look now at the odds for the Crystal Palace job, and as I say, a lot of the footballing world expects it to be Lampard. Second favourite is Steve Cooper. Eddie Howe's up there as well. Scott Parker too. If it's not Lampard, who else do you think's in with the shout for the job, Corey?
Oh, I thought it was going to be Eddie Howe before Lampard came in. I thought Eddie Howe would have been his shooting. I think there's a bit of myth about Eddie Howe because I like him as a manager. I think he played some really good stuff with Bournemouth, and I think the only thing that went wrong with him was the recruitment. But again, he doesn't. Every time he travels elsewhere outside of Bournemouth, he struggles, particularly with Burnley. So I actually don't know whether Eddie Howe would fancy that job. I know it's a project, and again, like Eddie Howe is the type of coach that he needs to be given the trust and the time. And the way that Palace will be with Roy Hodgson leaving and the players leaving, you don't have time, which is why it is still a risk with Frank Lampard. And I don't think Frank Lampard signs on the dotted line unless he's got assurances over certain things, because with all respect to Chelsea fans, because of the ego with him. He will want certain things in place when he walks into that club. So I think Eddie Howe's the only backup. Steve Cooper would be a good shout with the football that Swansea play, but no, I think Fat Frank will be a Premier League manager, and I look forward to playing him with West Ham Palace away. That'll be interesting next season.
Yeah, it's interesting, as I say. Let us know in the comments what you think regarding Crystal Palace and all things Frank Lampard and stuff like that. But yeah, it's interesting. And first thing I thought was, well, I might stick a few quid on Palace going down next season then. But like you say, with Lampard, he'll have to have assurances. Eddie Howe, I heard he was going Celtic, so I'm not sure about that.
Oh, that'd be a great job for him. That'd be he would do well obviously he would do well up there, but they would play some really nice stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So it would be a nice job for him, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Palace. And I think it would also be quite a nice job for Frank Lampard. And considering he's not really done much in management yet, to have the last 2 jobs that he's had and to keep getting these chances, then fair play to him. I think you can see that there is a coach there in Frank Lampard. He's just not utilised it yet. But last subject of the day before I read out a couple of comments and we go. Harry Kane, Corey, we've been talking about this for the last few weeks. Now we've had the news. Harry Kane has come out and said that he wants to leave Spurs. Obviously, Spurs aren't going to finish in the top 4 now. He says he wants to win things. He wants top 4 football, and you're not going to get that at Spurs, are you, Corey? So certainly, it's not confirmed. Listen, Corey, we disrespect Tottenham. We laugh at them week in, week out. But you have to respect Harry Kane. He's a world-class player, and he deserves better than that football club.
He does. I think as well with the Tottenham narrative in terms of that ownership. That ownership have taken Tottenham as far as they can in a sustainable way. But for Harry Kane and for Tottenham as a club to go and break that barrier, they should have backed Poch. They should have backed Mourinho a little bit more. They should have had a little bit more money in the bank. I think Kane deserves to win trophies. As much as he is a Tottenham player, I think he's absolutely fantastic. I think he's taken his game to another level again this season. And he's been injury prone as well. We know his ankles aren't the greatest, but he's improving as a player and he's coming into his prime. And I would like to go and see him win a trophy, because I do think he can get that goal scoring record in the Premier League, and I think that's where he belongs. But I think a Premier League, an FA Cup, possibly even a Champions League, depending on who he joins, I think he deserves that. But it does worry me that he could go to Man City and no one, like even Liverpool, aren't really going to have a look in, because you can guarantee that if they've got him in front of goal, with all due respect to Sterling and Jesus, he's gonna bag 30 plus and get multiple assists as well.
Yeah, Harry Kane at City absolutely terrifies me. The first thing I thought, to be honest with you, was Chelsea. It's no secret they're after a number 9. I think they'll probably miss out on Haaland. There was rumours earlier on in the season that Haaland said that he doesn't want to go to Chelsea, he wants to go to a big club. Which, I think is interesting. And obviously Harry Kane wouldn't have to relocate, but at the same time, for Spurs fans and for Spurs and Daniel Levy, who is already under pressure, of course, at the moment, for them to sell to Chelsea,
they won't. Not in a billion years. He needs to, for his own reputation, he has to sell him to a Manchester club or some. You can't sell him to a London club. Let's be honest, the only one that can afford him, and he might go to. He wouldn't go to Chelsea. I'm not even going to say it. It's Chelsea fans are dreaming. The funny thing about Chelsea fans is they don't actually really care if he's from Tottenham. They're just like, tell you what, get him in this side. And we'll be flying. It's hard to talk about Tottenham in a rational way. It is really difficult because you do want to just slate them. But if they did get £150 million in, they could do some serious, with the right recruitment, they could build a really decent side. I think they've got the sort of, that midfield for me is not too bad. Defensively though, and definitely obviously going forward, they do need reinforcement. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Spurs would be in the mud if he left, but there's pressure on them to get it right. And if clubs know you've got 150 million kicking around, they're going to put that price tag right up.
And we had this, I had this conversation with my mates before coming on air with Spurs, with Levy. He's not going to be a pushover in this. He's going to stick his price. He's going to very much stick to it. And, it'll be inflated for Premier League clubs. For me, I don't see Harry Kane being allowed to go to a Premier League club. I see him only be allowed to go if it's abroad and to, maybe potentially PSG or Madrid. We know Madrid are really interested in Haaland and Mbappe or both, as some of the rumours have suggested. I don't know how they'd be able to afford either with what's going on at the minute. But, you guarantee with Harry Kane, you guarantee goals. And as you say, he's a 30-plus goal a season striker if he manages to stay fit for the whole of the season in the Premier League. And he's a man that will be worth throwing money at.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. In the modern day, you've seen it with Chelsea as well when they throw money at Timo Werner and Kai Havertz. And I think Kai Havertz will come good. There's still such an element of risk. You very rarely get a player where you look at and say, I can pay 150 mil and I know exactly what I'm getting. And Harry Kane, you know what you're getting and you know he's coming into his prime. So whoever signs him, for me, wins the league. I honestly think, as bad as I think Manchester United are in terms of overall play, I think when you bring someone like that to the club, you just elevate yourself to a completely another level. So, yeah, it's going to be a mad summer. Like you can see anyway from some of the transfers kicking around, Sancho, Harry Kane, the clubs are, even Frank Lampard going into Palace, loads of players leaving. There's going to be such an in and out. West Ham will spend money or try and spend money. Liverpool will go again. This summer's going to be mental. And I'll be interested to see whether Kane tries to force the issue before the Euros or after. Because the longer he leaves it, I wonder whether Levy's going to be a little bit more concrete in terms of saying you can't go. And we know Daniel Levy will, because it's all very much about reputation, and he won't bend for anyone.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I think Kane is going to have to force his way out of Spurs if he wants to leave. And, you can look at it from a Levy perspective as well. And to be fair, now might be the perfect time for him to sell because, with the situation surrounding the stadium and the financial situation at Spurs after COVID and stuff like that, the fact they're outside the top 4, it might be the perfect time for them to cash in and they're looking for a new manager. So rebuild and give the new manager a bundle of cash and give him a rebuild job. But, no team in the world will want to lose a player of Harry Kane's caliber, especially with how important he is to Spurs. And as you say, we know what Daniel Levy is like, and he's not going to be a pushover with this. But where do you think Harry Kane will end up? If you had to put money on one club, who do you think it would be?
I'm going to go Man City. I've said it for a while now. I think Man City play a poker game in terms of how much money they've got. And I've heard that Pep is a huge admirer of Harry Kane, and Harry Kane would go there. I think people say about Man United, because I think there's this sort of concept that Man United have to have a number 9 because of the strikers that they've had in the past. And I guess to a degree that is true. But you look at Kane in terms of the fit for Manchester City, not just in terms of finishing, overall play, what he could do with that Pep side, the players that he's got around him, everything fits for me. And I do feel that City haven't flexed their muscles because there's obviously a massive concern over FFP and whether they're spending too much. I think they would do though. And look, Aguero's gone out the door. You need a number 9. For me, if you're Man City, it's either him or Haaland. And Kane's got Premier League experience. Not to say Haaland won't prove it, but Kane's in his prime. You would take him. I think he'll go there.
City, now they've sorted their defence out. Their one thing got being perfect, and that is a number 9. And if you could say one player in the world to improve Man City 100%, it's going to be Harry Kane. Someone that definitely guarantees you 30 goals, at least 20 goals a season in the Premier League. And there'll be a huge threat. There'll be an absolutely huge threat with Harry Kane added to their squad. And, I can see the United thing as well. We've seen, it would be a typical United signing we've seen in the past. You look at their deals, you look at signings like Robin Van Persie, Teddy Sheringham.
But the thing is, Jack, as well, though, like when you look at in terms of who you would go to, would you go and play for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, or would you go and pay for Pep Guardiola, who possibly wins the Champions League? And that's the thing. And that as much as Man United fans will hate it because of the stature of the club, that is the truth. That is what you've got with Ole. People will say he couldn't bring Haaland in, and he's managed Haaland before. So for me, it's not going to happen.
Exactly, and you look at Harry Kane and you see a man who is clever. He'll know that if he goes to City as well, there's record after record to be broken there. There is, because, you add Harry Kane to that City side, they're breaking points records, they're winning a lot of trophies. They'll be outstanding. And, for me, I personally am going to say I think he'll go PSG. I think the only way Spurs leave is I think he'll go outside the Premier League. And with the Poch link, I honestly think he'll see it as a guaranteed trophy. PSG are desperate for the Champions League. We've seen them, we're playing with Mbappe and Neymar. Imagine what Harry Kane can do with them too. And I think that may be his only way to leave Spurs, by going outside of the Premier League. But like you say, that will also be disappointing, because I think there's records to be broken for him in the Premier League.
That'd be mad if he played for PSG. It would be, because their front three would be ridiculous. But I do think, Poch is building something at PSG. I think he's trying to build a bit more of a team, and it is a bit of a hard task to go into, because PSG are such Mbappe, Neymar, build your side around 2 players. I wonder whether Kane gives a little bit of balance in terms of that, and it would guarantee trophies. But I just think in terms of going to the next level and that Premier League record, you've really got to start looking at someone like a Manchester United or a Man City.
Well, we're just going to quickly read out a couple of comments before we wrap up. I know I've asked for a few throughout this, so I think I'd read them out. There's one that interested me earlier on, Corey. Kevin Ball says, I think that West Ham will be lucky to keep Declan Rice. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think he'll stay in the summer? Do you think he'll stay in the summer, Corey? Well, I think we've lost Corey there. So I'm going to wrap up today's video. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us for this one. Thank you, of course, to Lee, who left us earlier on, and Corey now too. And we shall see you very soon. Ta-ra.